The ninth console generation has been very little more than gaming's biggest joke so far. Whereas previous generations are defined by great experiences, great games, eventful moments, the ninth console generation is something that you honestly can just forget even exists more often than not. I know I do, and for those of you that don't have a console of this generation that isn't the Nintendo Switch, I bet you do too. But why is it like that? Why is it that the ninth console generation feels like it's probably gonna be the last one? Or at least as close to the closing of the casket as it can be. That's what I want to look into this video. I want to look into why the things are the way they are. And just FYI, we're going to avoid talking about Nintendo in this video much, because Nintendo is doing their own thing, and that own thing is making games, so you know, that wouldn't qualify for the topic. Starting with the PS5. The PlayStation 5 should really be studied because it's honestly quite jaw-dropping how a console can come so close to getting the point of the thing and then not doing the thing. Let's step back a bit. At the end of the day, what is your game console for? I know what it could be. For the graphics. The PS5 originally advertised itself as one of the most powerful consoles ever made and the most powerful console Sony has ever put out because there would be a really big fucking problem if it hadn't been. But the console's power is something that is very frequently advertised. It's on the box itself, 4K at 120 FPS. Shocking, I know, console fanboys had to reprogram themselves after years and years of saying that they can only see 30 FPS. Suddenly 120 FPS was a great revolution and something everybody always needed. And resolution as well, because as we know, games are defined by their resolution, but that's not the point I'm trying to make here. But before I actually get to the point I'm trying to make here, the PS5's functionalities and new capabilities are something that have been advertised a lot. Going so far as to have the DualSense controller, a controller that costs... Oh, it's one of those, isn't it? Okay. But it has a touchpad and triggers that push back against you so you can feel like you're in the game. Very immersive. The reality is that most games just don't use this, and most people don't even notice that it uses this. But the point of all of this, and the point that I'm trying to make here, is that the PS5's marketing centers around immersion for when you're playing your games. The reality is that, despite the PS5 being perfectly capable of doing all of this, the advertisement is bunk. That is to say that no games actually meet this standard. I mean, can you think of any games that fit this description? Most games on the PS5, be they third-party or first-party, run pretty poorly actually at 30 FPS and a sub 4K resolution. Not that resolution actually matters that much because not everybody has a 4K TV, and you don't actually need a really high resolution to be fully immersed in a video game. Sony themselves admit that 75% of PS5 users actually play the game in performance mode because, surprisingly enough, performance is more important than visuals in a video game. Because, shockingly enough, just hold back your gasps, but when you are playing a game, you want full interactivity with that game. And thus, to get the best interactivity with that game, you need the game to function as, you know, good as possible. So, to combat the fact that their 2013 console runs games better than their 2020 console, and also to combat the fact that the Sega Dreamcast ran games better than their 2020 console, the big brain geniuses at Sony got their $500 console, stripped the disc drive from it, and made a pro version of the console, costing a whopping $700 US before tax. Advertising more consistent performance, notice how I said more consistent instead of consistent performance, and visual fidelity so revolutionary that within minutes, the gaming community as a whole memed the fact that you couldn't even tell what the difference was. Does the console reach 4K 120 FPS now? Of course not. Sony themselves admit they are targeting a consistent, or relatively consistent, 4K 60 FPS, using games such as The Last of Us 2, a game originally released on the PS4, by the way, as one of the showcases for it, so that's just lovely. If you want a game console that comes closer to meeting what was originally advertised to you, if we use the common sales tax number in the US of 8%, you now need to shell out $756 US for the console, $30 for a vertical stand if you want it to look aesthetically pleasing, $160 US if you want to play online, for 12 months of course, because, you know, money, coming in at a whopping $946 US in the year of our Lord 2024. Just to be able to play a game at half of what was promised to you 4 years ago. Oh wait, that's right, your games are on disk drives primarily, so you also need a disk drive. Add another $80 to that. And yeah, you need a game as well. Add $70 to it. Then add common sales tax for both those last two things, and you get a whopping $1,108 US to play a video game on the PS5 Pro. And that's when we get to the biggest problem of PlayStation in the 9th generation of consoles. The PS5 only has
one game. I don't know why. I bought a PS5 with no games to buy. Keep that in mind. They designed this drive to improve loading times. That's all I know.
I cannot fucking believe that not only do we live in a day and age where making video games is as easy as it's ever been, down to the point where someone with minimal coding experience could make a half-decent one, but that I also got called a PS5 fangirl back in the day, you know, in the faraway times of 2023 1 year ago, as if it's humanly possible to simp for a console like this. Why do you buy video game consoles? To play video games, of course. And the PS5 certainly has video games, there's nobody denying that. The problem is that I can play all of them on my PC, third-party ones that is, and first-party ones as well. So naturally, at the end of the day, to incentivize people buying consoles, you need to actually have reasons to buy that console in particular. Now, Sony loves to do remasters and upscaled ports, and sequels to games that end up playing 99% the same. So let me ask you, dear viewer, do you know how many exclusive games the PS5 has that aren't ports or sequels to PS4 games? 4. 5 if you count Astro's Playroom, but that's basically a tech demo, so yeah, 4. The PS5 has 4 games. It had 5, but that game cost $400 million and lasted less than a literal scam project. 3 weeks compared to 12 days, by the way. One of the common defenses for buying consoles is that they are cheaper and simpler than PCs. But motherfucker, for 1.1k, I will get you a fucking PC that can run games at 4K 60 FPS, higher than that sometimes, and you'll actually have access to a game library. Because not only does Sony just not make fucking games anymore, but a lot of the games that they do actually make are just glorified movies. Oh, the PS5 has upcoming games, but a lot of them are just live service slop. You know, the games that are more of a chore than actual fun experiences. This console's just a fucking scam, and I honestly cannot believe that some people have actually tried to argue that it isn't. Not just the PS5 Pro, that upscaled 864p fucking mess, but the base PS5 itself as well. Because even for $500, I'm pretty fucking sure I can at least get something that can play video games that are fun and that I can't get anywhere else. Like a Nintendo Switch. Fun fact, you can buy two Nintendo Switches for the price of one PS5 regular with a disc drive and 2 video games on top of that. But hey, at least it has 4 games. Is there anything worse than this?
Oh, lovely. They've sent me a moron.
I am so sorry I asked. The Xbox Series console's a great idea on paper that absolutely collapses the second you look at it. Another console that advertises incredible performance in video games. Does it ever reach that performance? No, but not for the same reason that the PS5 doesn't. You see, the PS5 often doesn't reach the performance it advertises because the PS5 and its exclusives are unfathomably bloated. People say that development costs are increasing, but that's only really because it's artificial. Many games coming in at dozens, if not hundreds of millions to produce. So you can see each individual strand of hair or some stupid shit like that. The Xbox Series console actually comes with a much different thing. You see, there's 2 consoles in the Xbox Series lines. The Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S. The X being the powerful one with the disc drive and the S being a budget one without a disc drive for $300. A great idea until you realize that it's Microsoft policy for both consoles to run the games exactly the same. Meaning that, despite the X being far more powerful than the S, it has to run games exactly as the S does. It also suffers from bloating, but not the same as the PS5, because its model comes from digital game sales, with Xbox Game Pass, which is incredibly consumer-friendly, until you realize that Xbox Game Pass means you have to download the games, and games nowadays have incredibly bloated file sizes. I mean, fuck, the latest 2 Call of Duty games come up to 200 plus gigabytes. meaning that if you're not going physical only, you are going to run out of storage space very often. More often than the Nintendo Switch, and that's a fucking cartridge-based console. So your gaming experience is going to be primarily comprised of simply sitting there and waiting for games to download, and then managing your fucking files as if you're at an office or some shit. But hey, it's cheaper than the PS5, actually has a disc drive, actually has a good controller that isn't selling you on crap, has more consistent performance than the PS5, and honestly, I'm really excited to try out the exclusive games that the Xbox has. Oh yeah. No games. Xbox literally has no games. Exclusive ones, that is. Name one. Name one game on the Xbox that I cannot get on, for example, the PC. You can't. Because Xbox's dumb fuck model with the fucking Xbox Game Pass is a fucking pyramid scheme that relies on constant growth. The problem is that there are finite people on the planet and even more finite people that actually play video games on either a PC or an Xbox that have PCs or the funds capable of enjoying these things. But because Microsoft is Microsoft and Microsoft fucking sucks, all they do is acquire studios, do jack diddly dick with them, and then put all their cards in a handful of the main moneymakers like Call of Duty. Bad for gamers in the long run, and bad for people who bought a fucking Xbox in particular, because the Xbox ends up being a fucking paperweight. Honestly, why buy a fucking Xbox console these days? Why? So you can just fucking sit there and just save up, buy a decent PC, get an Xbox controller if you're that much of a stingy cunt, plug it into your TV, and there you fucking go. Now you're paying less for more. In the long run, that is. I think Xbox killed itself the second it tried to be the everything console where you watch your movies and shit and have multiple functionalities attached. Because now, there's nothing to it. Xbox, for the first time since the fucking 6th console generation, that's the PS2 generation, by the way, has a more capable console than Sony, and they decide to just fuck it up with two incredibly retarded business models. That means that everyone who bought an Xbox Series console has nothing to gain from it. Leave a 100 emoji in the comment sections if you agree, or if you at least got this far into this video, because, you know, you'd have to hear this and get this far to hear this. So that's the 9th console generation. You have Nintendo on the side doing their own thing and actually making absolute banger games like Kirby and the Forgotten Land. You actually should play Kirby and the Forgotten Land. It's one of the greatest platformers I've played recently. And actually innovating by making a home console on the go. More than 3 times cheaper than the competition if you include the light version of it. You have Sony rubbing its ass on a canvas, and you have Xbox slamming its face into a wall. A console generation defined, if you don't count Nintendo, by a fucking severe lack of video games, severe lack of pro gamer mindset, executives that have no fucking clue what they're doing, and fucking groups of customers that huff their own farts so much that the house is gonna fucking explode if you light up a lighter, who just keep egging on this crap and then getting surprised that they get nothing in return. A video game console generation defined by a lack of video games. That's fucking sad, really. That's really fucking sad that even as a fucking kid, I was able to get more games on my PS2 based solely on what my parents got me once in a blue moon than the entire generation has exclusively. I thought we had reached peak retardation with the 8th generation of consoles where people were arguing between 1080p 30 FPS or 900p 60 FPS. But no, now we have this. Leave a like on this video if you agreed, and leave a brick on your fucking living room and send a picture to me on Discord if you bought one of these things, because it's actually gonna be more useful than a modern console. Thank you for watching.